All right, we're recording with Dr. Gary. This is our new thing, Saturday mornings. We need a name for it. Decompression from the week, coffee. Get your black coffee with Dr. Gary and Brian, and we're going to do some more casual podcasts and get some insight into what it's like to be a doctor and what goes on in his clinic, and just extra topics that don't make it to Peak Human podcasts or the main Sapien episodes. So what's going on, Gary?
What's up, Brian Sanders? So I'm excited to do these talks and share them with people, but in all reality, we've been having these talks like every Saturday for the last 4 years or whatever it's been. I'm always going through all sorts of stuff and emotions and revelations and really exciting, for the most part, patient encounters at Evolve. And, I'm always calling Brian and sharing my stories and revelating on new ideas and how, our recommendations can be improved and what's working, and just some, lots of exciting things. And we wanted to share it with you guys. I think there's a lot to learn from it, and it's probably more casual, more fun. I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. We can't keep this to ourselves, right? We just keep talking about it. We get so fired up, and we're saying to ourselves, why aren't we recording this? Why don't people know what we're talking about? Why are all the other doctors so lost? Why don't we just
that conversation? Oh my God. Sorry. I just had that conversation with someone. I'm like, how are people so lost? Doctors, especially when it comes to nutrition, and don't get like upset about the fact that they are, like how do I not know about this? That was my realization. I don't know. I think it should be much more frustrating for health professionals.
It is. Well, you talked about on the main Sapien show is your encounters with the doctors, or you started telling them about this stuff. They were resistant to it, and then they kind of come around. Some of them come around, but they'll put up a lot of fight, right? They'll be like, oh, but this textbook says this.
Absolutely. And then, so I said that. So I was talking about how when I first became, obsessed with food, for lack of a better phrase, I started talking about it a lot because I was spending a lot of time in the hospital. And, immediately I started adopting strategies like carb restriction and timed eating. And I started feeling the benefits and talking about it and trying to share it with people and talking about what I'm developing with Brian as we were kind of going through the Sapien protocol. And, it was met with just nonstop resistance. I cannot think of really any health professionals that were immediately embracing it. Mind you, this was like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's changed. I do think that now, I think there's a lot of young doctors and dietitians and nurses out there, realizing that there is a right way to eat and there's better ways to eat, than what we're taught. I will also say, and add to that whole thing, that I think then there were people that understood this. There were people that were quote unquote like self-identified keto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paleo people, but they weren't like promoting it. They weren't excited about it enough to share. Or maybe they were scared because it was even more of this kind of like plant-based push. I feel like that's changing. I really do. I feel like, and maybe that's because that's the world I've created for myself, but I do. I see it more in the media. I see it more with my colleagues, with my patients. And I think that's so exciting. And I still think it's very confusing for most of them. I think most people will latch on to like this concept of keto or paleo and not really know like the way we understand the principles or the ideas that are good within each, and sort of have integrated it together into this like cohesive framework. All of this, guys, Brian Sanders like would think of this and then call me on a Saturday and we talk about it. And anyway, I really do think that more and more people are opening their minds to it and reaching out to me and learning about it. And it's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. And no, I just had some people over last night, and they're funny. They were some younger people, and they just heard of the keto diet, but to them it was just like a thing. It was just like, oh, right, this is the next fad, or I'm just going to try this. Or one guy's like, oh, I heard Saladino. This guy Saladino. Have you heard of him? I'm like, yeah,
right.
I know, Paul.
Yeah.
he's talking about the carnivore diet on Joe Rogan, and we're going to do it. Like, we got some butcher box or something. Like,
It's great.
yeah,
I
it's
know
great.
you mean it. You mean it with a little tone of like silliness. I know
No,
what you
I know.
mean.
Okay. But no, it's great that it's happening. No, I was
Yeah.
going to go with that. We want to show people why it works, and there's a bigger framework behind it. It's not just something like, oh, this is keto or this is paleo, like you said. It's that there's bigger things behind it, reasons why it works. And it's good that people are coming into this world and finding it through mainstream sources and names, but then realizing there's more to it, right? And then you
Yeah.
get into sapien, and I don't even want sapien to be a name. I just want it to be a concept. This is a healthy human way of eating. But
Yeah, I mean, I think on some level, our ultimate dream is for it to be picked up by education institutions. I mean, I think we developed this whole concept from the perspective of how can we teach everyone how all this stuff makes sense and works together, and how it's inclusive of many, many dietary sort of styles. And I think that was what makes us unique. And so, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I have some colleagues that are educators at University of New Mexico, and we're constantly trying to figure out how we could bring the Sapien diet and lifestyle program into their education. And I think that's where we can really, touch even more people than we do with our social media and our media stuff, but really get into the education world. And I think that's really, I don't think you can take like the carnivore diet, as much as I loved Sean Baker's book, Paul's book, and sort of what how they present those concepts. I don't think it's like a education platform, right? I don't think it's a curriculum. And some of the other platforms that exist that are low carb, that are like low carb focused, I think that we've said this before, but fixating on carbs, right? Or fat or meat or any one of these things is not going to ever be like an education platform that transcends to physicians, that transcends to dietitians, the mass, everyone, right? But I just feel like if we can get those educators, if we can get the physicians and leaders in education, then we'll get the masses. You know what I mean? Like, there will be people that will seek us out as they do, or find us and, enjoy the education. But to really like change how people think about food, I think it needs to become part of a curriculum. And I think that's the dream, the movie, all of it, everything we're doing. The goal is to get that kind of platform where people will be like, yeah, let's teach this. Like, this makes sense. This takes concepts from like Virta health studies and concepts about fasting and concepts about low carb and healthy fat, and integrates it into a full kind of cohesive unit. And I really think that's what we're after,
That's a big picture. Why don't we get to some stories here? For
Yeah.
one, we got an email from Jeremy, an osteopathic resident physician and he said he loves, our first episode and wanted to just talk about his experience. So I forwarded it to you, Gary.
Yeah, I looked at it. It's so fun. Again, like the young doctors, this is where we start. Like, this was so exciting to see, because, if we can get a young man like him to really understand what we're up to, that means all of his patients will understand. And that's, helping so many people. But I read what I would love to talk to him. I mean, even before we got this email, one of the podcast ideas we were really excited about was talking about, medical education. I think it's something that's pretty shrouded, and most of the time people only know it from like TV shows, Scrubs. That's the conceptualization of it. And I think that there's a lot of great parts about it, and there's a lot of not so great parts, and it would be fun to talk about it and for people to understand where their doctor is coming from by understanding the education process.
Yeah, maybe we could have him on one of these episodes. But he was talking about how most people, there's a process, right? You go through the school, you buy into it all, then you go down this path, and maybe you get fat and sick yourself as a doctor, then you discover this, and then you go through this awakening phase, and then you try to reverse out of it, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, it's crazy that I was red pilled, or like I figured it all out while I'm still in the program. And now he is dealing with trying to combat all this crazy stuff they're trying to tell him, or the confliction, the cognitive dissonance. They're like explaining about how blood sugar works and this and that, and then they're like, oh yeah, but just eat a grain-based diet.
Man, yeah. I just recently went through it. Speaking of stories, I had a young man from a local residency in Los Angeles shadowing me for a rotation. And he and I had been talking about, he sort of had just started his residency as I was on my way out of the hospital. And I talked to him about everything. And he was a former athlete. He played professional sports, and he was already sort of aware of the dietary issues because he figured out how to protect his body using nutrition. And he's going through the same thing. He's finishing his program, and he wants to make lifestyle modification the first thing you teach people, right? Like we talk about the word's escaping me, but like first line, we're talking about first line therapy, second line therapy, third line therapy, right? And in even our education, it says first line therapy, lifestyle modification, second line therapy, this drugs, third line therapy, these drugs, right? And he was, as they're trying to train him, and he's like learning from me, and we're going through like real first line therapy, like a real meaningful intensive behavioral therapy program where we change how you think about food and how you relate to food, and then go deeper into like exercise habits and stress management habits and sleep hygiene. That was his cognitive issues, cognitive dissonance. He's like, I actually am learning first line therapy, and everything they're training me for is second, third, fourth line therapy. They don't know how to teach first line therapy. And that was messing him up. And, he felt, uneasy, I think, from what I kind of gathered, being pushy with that stuff the way I was when I was an attending. And I get it. As an attending, what are they going to do? Like, they can get upset, but I know what I'm talking about. As a medical resident, you're subordinate. You know what I mean? There's a hierarchy here. So I think if he's trying to be like, well, for this diabetic, instead of starting a third drug, I'm going to really push him to cut out all the grains, that, is not the way we do Western medicine. And really tough for young doctors. It's tough for me in the clinic, and especially in the beginning, because you got to have strong mind, like strong conviction that the truth. And again, maybe like the root of these Saturday sessions is like me calling Brian and be like, dude, I'm not crazy, right? Like this is the right, we talk about, oh my God, this guy's LDL went up, but his HDL is 90. Do I worry? What do I do? Well, now we've worked it out, and we can really show you some great evidence why that's great. It's totally fine. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of young students should hear from people that are already battling this battle that we're
it's tough. I've heard other people too. It sounds like you have to bite your lip a bit. And when you go into these programs, him and other people were talking about not being able to post things online. You can't maybe even go on a podcast, all this stuff, because you can't do it. You're in their program, and you have to follow their rules, and you have to just sit back and bite your tongue. But that really quick, and that just one last thought on that. It makes it tough to then graduate and go right into practice doing something you believe in. And that's what I want to encourage them to do, is don't go take that contract with that organization that's going to beat you in the ground for 2 to 3 years before you say enough's enough and go out on your own. Like, just do it. It's never going to be easy. Find like-minded people or figure it out, and like start practicing medicine right from the get-go the way it should be practiced, not the way you're told, driven clearly by not good evidence. Well, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. No, I've seen Dr. Gary's practice change, and you have to, can't take insurance all the time. You have to figure it out. And, I've worked there as a health coach too. I was really great to get in and see what's going on and actually deal with patients. And I learned a lot from that. But what about your newest one, the vegetarian guy?
Yeah. So this was a great story. I said there's some bad stories. There's some great stories. This is a great story. I had a young man come in this week, and usually when it's a cash pay patient, because their insurance I take a lot of insurances, but sometimes I don't. Or a lot of times it's folks that are pretty against the Western medical system, and they're sort of finally ready to reach out to a doctor, and they find me online, and I'm thought of as, quote, the holistic holistic, right? You kind of see like the way I'm presenting myself. I don't promote like pharmaceuticals, and I
Lifestyle
promote lifestyle.
medicine,
Yeah.
root cause medicine, all that stuff. Yeah.
But I'm not like keto or carnivore or whatever, right? We just have this lifestyle program. It's inclusive. So this guy comes in on and he's like, yeah, well, I've been having all these stomach issues, and I ate something the other week, and at first I had mucus, and he just had all these symptoms, right? A lot of symptoms that are familiar with fatigue, sleepiness, just sort of wasn't doing good. He took like a insult from an infection and like didn't recover quickly. And his girl encouraged him to come in, and sort of after 5 minutes, I listened to him with all his complaints, and I go, so do you practice any specific nutrition program? That's like usually how I say it. And he goes, well, yeah, I've been a vegetarian for like the last 2 years. And, I'm more recently trying to do more raw vegetarian. And, and then he makes a quick comment. He's like, well, but my girl eats fish, but I don't. And so anyway, she had me come in, and then immediately it was like a light bulb. I was like, uh-huh. And I'm like, so you think that, eating a plant-based only plants, it's good, and meat's bad? And he's like, yeah, I mean, right, I'm trying to be healthy, right? So my approach was call your girlfriend in. Because if she's the person who brought you to me, and she's the person eating animal products, and she's the person not struggling, then let's do it together. Let me talk about my concept together so that you see I'll explain to her why her strategy is working and why your strategy is not working. You know what I'm saying?
She's got to be on board too, because they're eating together and they
well,
live together.
So anyway, she comes in, she's very sweet. And I'm like, look, maybe you're not going to like what I have to say, but I want to share with you my nutrition and lifestyle program, because I think this is where your problem's at. And I know I'm kind of jumping to conclusions. It's been a few minutes, but like, I've seen this, like, this is a thing, this is a pattern. And I describe the whole process of the Sapien diet and lifestyle, which y'all know, or please watch our other podcasts. And then I go, well, and by the way, just so you know why I'm bringing this up, here's like the patterns we see, right? Like, so people go away from a standard American diet, they start doing, whatever else, and feel better immediately, right? Because standard American is so bad, and whether it's vegan, vegetarian, carnivore, you immediately feel better because you take out shit from your diet, basically, is how I think about it. But with a very, very plant-based diet, unless you're really, really working hard, after about 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you run out of juice. You run out of minerals. You have vitamin deficiency. That's how long it takes for this thing to catch up to you. For the most part, that's like a pattern. And I think everyone listening has
some people bail after 3 months. And
right. I'm just saying, like, if people are real committed and they can ignore not feeling so good, by year 3, 4, 5, you can't ignore your hair falling out or you sleeping longer and your brain not working. Like, you just can't, right? So then I go, does this sound familiar? And then he goes, oh my God, like, you just described like everything I'm going through. I didn't even tell you. And so I was like, he saw the pattern, he saw the connection. His partner shared how, she was feeling really bad and not having all sorts of symptoms, hair loss. She started bringing fish products back in and immediately felt better. And I was like, exactly. You don't have to eat beef like I do all the time. You just have to understand what healthy food is and include healthy animal-based foods in your diet. And I think in that 45 minutes, it really, like, there was a light that went off. He came back a few weeks later feeling like $1 million. And it was really special, because you don't get to do that. A lot of times when a person comes in with a plant-based agenda, it's very, very hard to change their mind. It's hard to change anyone's mind these days. And I did. And I think he's going to live a much happier life. He's already less symptoms. And, there's a lot of other stories like that, but that was just this week and it made me feel so good. And what did I do? I called Brian right away. Dude, I think I got him.
Well,
I think I got it. I got this guy.
When you reach through, it's hard to get through to some of these plant-based people because they have entrenched beliefs and they're resistant to all this. So I think it's great when it actually does work out.
I think health is the great equalizer, right? You could have whatever ideas, you could see whatever documentaries, you could follow whatever gurus, you could be excited about this or that. But when you feel like crap, you got to look and say, what am I doing that's making me feel like crap?
So you just got to be
And
honest. Yeah. So I'll tell you my story for the week. I just got a YouTube comment today. I just posted on Instagram actually, but I'll read it. This guy, he's in his 60s. He says, so again, I want to say we support the carnivore diet, but we're not all about the carnivore diet.
we're not all
And
about any specific thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
about
So
understanding what we're doing.
some people just always misinterpret what I say online. And just
Yeah.
because I said online that fiber isn't some panacea miracle
Right.
food, people are like, oh, so you're zero fiber, bro? Like, oh, okay, zero fiber, bro. Yeah, that's so cool. I was like, oh
Ooh.
my God, I didn't say that. I didn't say
Maybe
that.
Zero Fiber Bro is another character for Brent Pella. Zero Fiber Bro, I never shit. Yeah.
He did. We
Like
need to
all the
get Sean
fake things
Baker.
about.
No, we got to get Sean Baker in on the video. Both of them, enjoy each other's work, and we need to connect them to make a video together.
Maybe
And
Sean could pretend he's a vegan.
we'll work
That
out
would
the
be pretty
beats.
funny. We got to
We'll
do
work
it.
out the beats. Let's do it. I was just thinking about connecting them to today. But anyway, people love to misinterpret things online. That's what people do. But this is also good things happen online, right? I get these YouTube comments, and this guy says, funny, now that I don't eat plants and only eat grass-fed, free-range, and wild-caught, I don't need a doctor or medications anymore. This is from a guy who has spent about 15 years in and out of hospital, about 6 different maladies. I had a GP, cardiologist, kidney doctor, internal medicine specialist, autoimmune specialist, and at least 10 different medications, including insulin injections daily. The medical community made millions off of me. Now, nothing. Well, except when I fell off a ladder a couple of years ago and broke a rib. And the only reason I went there then was because I wanted to see if I had a punctured lung. No more medical profession intruding on my life. I even think I had COVID, but didn't go to see for sure. Only had a chill, headache, and a little shortness of breath for a day. I was exposed to it by my teenage grandson who tested positive right before. Took him 2 weeks to recover, and he is an athlete. So it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's not confirmed that this guy, had COVID or not, but it's interesting that, maybe he's the one who was eating the better diet than the grandson, and he's older. He said he was, I believe he was in his 60s. Well, if he has a grandson, he must be.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows on that connection? But I mean, that is to say, I think when people think, the interesting idea, I think, is that, we think of young people as healthy, and these days, so many young people are not healthy. So you wonder, is the kid heavy? Is the kid profoundly vitamin D deficient? Is he doing drugs? I mean, there's so many factors, right? But like, I do think the idea that like being young means you're healthy and being older means you're not. It's like, no, it's how do you live your life? What do you do every day? There's that great meme of like, it's like 2 50-year-old guys. And it's like, what's the difference here? Lifestyle choices, right? Being 50 doesn't mean you have to have a big belly and not be healthy.
What were the
do you
two
remember
guys
that?
like? No.
I see. It's like one guy has like a big belly, looks 50, graying hair, and other guys all like ripped up because they work out. Also graying hair, but like vibrant,
Looks great, yeah.
Yeah. It's just lifestyle choices, right? Like it's what you do every single day. If you sit on the couch every day, you're going to look like you sit on the couch every day.
Well, exactly. But I think this guy's story specifically is crazy. I mean, I've never heard of such a long list of doctors and medications and now nothing.
No, not crazy. No, I mean,
I guess
people
you've
that
probably seen that.
Yeah, not crazy. Look, it's about compliance. Like I have a handful at this point of people that were on multiple drugs with multiple specialists, and the intervention when you do the whole thing, when you do the full sapien lifestyle, when you're doing your acute stressors, when you're focusing on sleep, when you're doing intermittent fasting, when you're doing all this stuff, things start dropping away, and it happens quick. It really does. So no, it's not crazy. And this guy is, this is Western medicine. This is another reason why they don't want us to share our message, because there goes millions of dollars for some people. You know what I mean?
He had it all down. And it really is amazing. I guess this guy probably was doing it really well. It sounds like he went all in.
Yeah.
Right?
All in,
people who do carnivore usually are, they're in, but
Carnivore is a great tool. It's the best tool, you might argue, to onboard yourself into this
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle, right? Because it simplifies it. It's like, well, do I have to think about what kind of vegetables? Do I have to think about what kind of fermented foods and where they source, what kind of dairy, blah, 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 right? You like put all that away and you're like, pasture raised, grass fed, local, like high quality meat products. I can eat all I want because you're not really, it's hard to overeat it. And it just works, and then, and then you start figuring out something that's more adaptable to a, modern lifestyle, which is where Sapien comes in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's about it, man. Yeah. Let's wrap it up for the day. Speaking of all that stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, you were telling me you've got some exciting stuff coming up with Nose to Tail. I just got some of this skin what is it, skin food?
Yeah.
Skin food, and amazing stuff. We've been using it, keep our bodies nice and lubricated. I know my girl's been using it for various. It's great. I love it. I love a good skin product. Tell me about it.
Well, also, I gave it to our other business partner, and his wife, Sophia, was texting me. She's like, "How did you make this? Who formulated it? This is so amazing." She was loving it. But it's made from beef tallow. And Mary Ruddick, who's my hero, she's this amazing nutrition person I had on PQ and podcast. She said it best: don't put anything on your skin you wouldn't put in your body. Your skin is an organ, right? It soaks up all the stuff that you put on it, right? So she said, before I told her anything about the beef tallow product I was making, she said, "You know what? You should use beef tallow on your skin. Should be a skin food." And I said, "Guess what? I'm making a product called Skin
Beat you
Food
to the punch."
Yeah,
I love it.
And I've been using it. Like, I've always had skin issues my whole life, and it's really getting better from just this. It's like whipped cream almost. It's like whipped.
Yeah,
It's great. So I don't want to turn this into a long plug, but just we're doing a lot of interesting stuff at nosetotale.org. We have the grass-fed, grass-finished meat shipped to you. We have these beef tallow products. We have this new biltong product that's kind of like jerky, but a lot better. It's way softer. And yeah, check it out. And we'll come back next week. Let us know if you have any other questions, if you're listening. We could do anything on these little episodes, right? We could answer listener questions. We can even have people on, and
we'll do it. We're gonna call this. We're gonna figure out a name, and we're gonna figure out if we're gonna include it in the role of the podcast or a separate podcast, or maybe like episode 1.5 and 2.5. We've got all sorts of ideas. We got to figure this out, but I'm into it. Thank you, Brian.
All right, good times. This will be up on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on audio only, it's up on the Food Lies YouTube. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.